Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished up talking about last night's Sweet 16 games. We continuing to watch those as all the storylines develop there. But now we are going to be switching into some NFL talks with some pro days that have taken place over the past couple days that have some of these maybe once considered outside of the tier 1 quarterbacks really making some noise and some buzz with McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr. They both had their respective pro days with their programs, I should say, and both of them really impressed and have a lot of NFL scouts buzzing. There was a report, so just big picture here, McCarthy for a handful of weeks, really since the season ended, has been rising up to the top of some of these draft boards, and people are saying that he could potentially fall into the top 4 in the draft based off some of the meetings and such, but also just looking at the physical tools. No, he does not have the most impressive statistics out of this quarterback class, but people are a little bit more taking into consideration the situation that he was in Michigan, the fact that they were operating it's a team game, obviously, so as much as you'd like to see the prospect flash themselves, if you're Michigan here and you're Jim Harbaugh who is coaching the team, if you have a run game that can get you 5 yards per carry, why would you throw it all that much? And ultimately, that sort of is why McCarthy didn't have the eye-popping numbers. Now, you can interpret that a couple different ways. Again, you can look at the fact that in the moments that he was asked to step up, his third down numbers were really impressive. Some of the physical tools that he holds, being able to use his legs a little bit more and be mobile while also having some solid power on his throws as well, being a decent outside the numbers thrower as well. There is a lot of stuff you can talk yourself into with McCarthy, but you can also spin that situation in a way. Well, I mean, the reality is, and I think that this is a little bit more of a definitive statement, we have not seen him with the entire weight of the offense really on his shoulders. And again, you can't say that that is his fault personally, but it is something you can consider a little bit in these draft conversations as well. Now, again, not out of his control. Maybe he is fully capable of that. We just haven't seen it necessarily. And the third down numbers would possibly show that, yeah, he can, but we will have to see about that. Michael Penix Jr., I feel like from a talent point is just as impressive as McCarthy, if not even more, with some of the arm talent that he showed during the year. I mean, he can let it go deep. He is incredible outside the numbers, and he's not the most mobile player in the NFL draft in terms of quarterbacks, but in terms of understanding an offense and being able to execute it, I do think Penix shows a lot of flashes. He was, for a lot of this offseason, considered to be outside of the first round, considering the fact that his medical history is a big red flag with him as a prospect. Had multiple season-ending knee injuries as well as dealing with shoulder injuries as well throughout his college experience, which is concerning for sure. But Penix also, we know that the talent is there with him, and despite a little bit of a disappointing national championship game, the way that he was able to lead Washington throughout the course of the regular season was very impressive. And even still in the championship game, it didn't help because his offensive line sort of collapsed on him. That was a very impressive Michigan defensive front, which played into that as well. But ultimately, there could be something there with Penix. Personally, for me, I think him being a lefty, him having the injury history he has, and some of the lack of real improvisational skills during his college experience would have me a little bit hesitant to take him in the first round, but if he also ends up working out, I would not be shocked either way. But I want to start with him and his pro day because that just took place, I believe it was yesterday, and it had a lot of scouts buzzing. There was a story that came out on Bleacher Report that NFL insider Jordan Schultz got a text from an anonymous head coach saying that he is locked in as a first rounder. He ran a 4.51 40-yard dash, jumped 37 inches in some of the vertical tests as well. It was 36.5 to be exact. But I mean, we know that he is athletic, and some of the mobility is, I don't think it's impossible. I feel like it's probably somewhat related to the fact that he's just a little bit more cautious in this all, and he's not quite as, dynamic in those quick burst movements, which is also not, the number one concern for a quarterback prospect anyways, so it shouldn't be a massive deal. But I do wonder a little bit. I think he plays a lot like Tua of the Dolphins, and I say that, I know it's a little bit of a lazy comparison because of the left-handedness of it, but those are sort of the similarities. It's not that he's a negative athlete. We know that he is athletic. It just seems like some of the surrounding stuff in a game situation, the reality of the situation is Michael Penix Jr., and when you're drafting a quarterback in general, I don't think that the 40-yard dash is all too significant of something that I would go off personally because, in an ideal world, unless you are coaching the likes of a Lamar Jackson where the run game is the forefront of sort of the building blocks around him, and I know Lamar's improved a lot more as a passer, which is why I like him a lot more as a quarterback now than I did when he was first coming into the league. But I just don't think that acceleration in a 40-yard dash, a straight sprint, is what I'm personally looking for in a quarterback. It's definitely does not hurt you if you can run a fast 4.51, but that's why the fact that he is now locked into a first-round pick does sort of surprise me. And I've seen some mock drafts, and the idea is that maybe a later first-round pick where he could potentially be drafted to the Rams is a team that I saw him in a mock draft with, but he's going to be visiting a handful of teams. Curious to see how this is all going to play out. I know the Broncos and Raiders are some teams that he is going to meet with. So we'll see how this all plays out. Again, I definitely don't want to fully discredit the talent level of Michael Penix Jr., but I do think that there are some red flags with both of these quarterbacks, and even if you go up to the top tier of QBs, there are some red flags there. So further goes to show that drafting a quarterback prospect is an extremely difficult thing to do. You can never really, there's no such thing as a sure thing really when it comes to the NFL draft, and especially when you're talking about quarterbacks. But it is a very interesting conversation. So in terms of fits for these players, again, I know that I think with Penix also, you do have to keep in mind, I don't want to overplay the left-handed factor of it all, but it is a real thing. If you talk to pass catchers, the ball rotates a different way, and I'm sure it's something that, we've seen some left-handed quarterbacks be able to perform with and put together good careers. Steve Young is obviously, the golden model of a left-handed quarterback, and he was throwing to Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was just fine with it. So ultimately, I don't want to overstate it, but it is different for the receivers, and you also have to sort of structure your offense in a different way. All of your play calls are sort of mirrored. You have to have a dominant right tackle as opposed to left tackle, because that's now the blind side, and everything is just a little bit different. That's why I would love to see him end up in Miami. I'm also not the biggest Tua fan, but I believe that Michael Penix could do a really good job. Now, would I draft him first round if I'm the Dolphins? Probably not. I would love for them to be able to sort of pick him up in the second round. Maybe you have to trade up for that move, but I would really be curious. Tua's going to be asking for something along the lines of $50 million. Penix plays a lot like him, but I do believe in the arm talent and the throwing ability. It's the deep ball stuff with Tua is a little bit overblown, where anytime a ball is slightly underthrown to Tyreek Hill running deep, everybody is quick to point the finger at Tua. But Michael Penix Jr., I have no worries, no concerns that he would be able to deliver some of those deep balls. And also, for Tua, haven't really seen him. Now, I know at Alabama, different story, and we're talking about Penix, who only has experience in college football, but I think with a game-winning drive on the line, I don't trust Tua like that, and I just feel like bringing Penix into the building to have that be a little bit more of a competition. I know that the price for Tua is going to be even that much more expensive. If he does hit unrestricted free agency, it's going to be expensive one way or another, though, and I would rather be sure than take the gamble, end up giving all this money to him, and end up regretting it shortly. So, again, Dolphins is probably the top spot where I would want to see Michael Penix. I also would be interested in potentially seeing him with the Raiders as well. Now, their offensive line is sort of iffy. I'm not totally sure about that, but I do think that with the explosive arm that he has, Davante Adams needs a improved quarterback who can hit him down the field and get him the ball, make things easier for where Penix, I don't think there's any concern with him necessarily going underneath. That wasn't necessarily his game in college, but when you're throwing to the likes of Davante Adams, probably makes life a lot easier. So I would be curious in that as well. For JJ McCarthy, obviously the number one mock for him has sort of shaped into the Vikings because of the fact that the Vikings acquired another first-round pick from the Texans, and it seems like they are a prime candidate to try and trade up in this draft. I don't think that Chicago is going to be moving. Chicago will not be moving on from their number one overall pick. Otherwise, they would have kept Justin Fields. So they're definitely taking a quarterback. It sounds like the Commanders are just about locked into taking a quarterback as well with the number 2 overall pick, which sort of leads people to think that it is probably they go for that number 4, maybe the number 3 spot, and JJ McCarthy has been receiving a lot of love in terms of the connection to the Vikings. So I can't say that would be a terrible fit there. I don't know what the perfect team for him to fall into is just yet, but sort of on that note, I want to take a break here, and when we come back on the other side, get into the idea of him going to the Cardinals, where that has been a big topic of conversation as of late, where there was a mock draft or a proposed move about the Cardinals taking JJ McCarthy 4th overall. That has been circulating the internet and making a lot of rounds. So I want to touch on that. So we will be taking our next break here. And when we come back on the other side, we will be getting into what the Cardinals should do with the number 4 overall pick. So stick with us and we will be right back.